when I think about it, why does this happen? Why is it that someone can live in a property and have to pay £2,000 of rent to pay for a two-bedroom flat for them and their kid, or whatever, for them, their partner and their kid? Okay, if there's two adults working, then it's not that bad. If they're both making £2,000 a year, then they're making 4,000 together, or perhaps more. Maybe one of them can earn, some people can earn thousands a day. There seems to be a big. I don't know. I've always seen money as being something that you can only earn 24,000, because I'm thinking about the days when that was all it is. Apparently the salary is a lot higher now. But yeah, why is it that people have to rent? The idea of owning houses and then renting them out and then just living off their rent money. This actually seems crazy, considering you're not doing anything. You've bought somewhere. It's gone up 100,000 over the last few years. Now it's very valuable, and now your only job is just to collect up money from people. I mean, isn't that just such a terrible, like, you're not doing anything. You maybe, okay, maybe you need to check on the boiler. You need to make sure, sometimes people complain all the time. The tap's broken, this is broken. So you do have to, I can understand that. If the world is full of morons, there's a lot of people that do not look after their houses. If there's a mold in the corner, and if it was up to them, they probably wouldn't fix it. Whereas if you had someone smart owning the property, they don't want their house to rot. They don't want that. My sister, when there was a leak behind the kitchen cabinet, she just left it run for 2 weeks. Technically the house was not hers, it was her partner's. And when he died, she couldn't look after the house. And when something like that happened, this is why it's a good idea to have people renting, because morons can't look after properties, and therefore some people cannot look after a property. Hence you need to have an owner of the house. That way, if something like this happens, that the person will report it. Yeah, there's a tap running and I can't turn it off, or I haven't even attempted to lift up the washing machine to find out where this tap running is coming from. I think because of this, if a world is full of morons, then you probably do need to have a landlord, because the landlord is someone who's got a little bit of intelligence and knows how to fix a problem, or how to, you know, the learning. I think schools should definitely have a whole class. Stop teaching your shit. Schools teach absolute shit in England, and they should focus on how to look after a house, how to prevent mold from happening. There's some things that could be simply as easy as getting like a drying pat, like a box that just you put it in the corner where the mold is, and it's supposed to absorb the water from that area, and it makes the mold go away. And there's also spray things. There's an anti-mold spray on the bathroom. There's some things that you can use that are very, very good, and I think there should be a class that actually teaches things like this. This actually teaches people to be intelligent. And right now, I don't think the schools are, well, the school when I was brought up, when I was a kid, the curriculum was not about encouraging kids to know how to live. It was just about teaching them shit that makes them stupid. I think a lot of things that they learned were just things that you learn, you pass a test. The test proves that you have a ability to learn stuff. And I did really badly in my tests, because most of the stuff that they were being taught, I just couldn't understand why we were being forced to learn this, and my memory was really bad. So when it comes to tests, how does this and that work? What chemical will be produced if you mix this chemical with that chemical? I don't know. I don't care. I don't want to remember things like this. When it comes to schooling, I wasn't very good, because almost everything that I read was just like, why are we learning this? Why do we need to know all this? And I couldn't understand why they were bothering teaching us. So school for me was just a bunch of morons teaching people to be able to use their memory. And because my memory didn't work properly, I just I didn't like it very much. But yeah, why have we ended up in a world where to be rich, all you need to do is buy I don't know, spend ages buying stocks and then selling stocks, buying stocks when they're low, and selling them when they're low. I mean, this is sort of, is this really fulfilling? yes, my stock has gone up, and a few weeks later, okay, it's gone down a little bit. I mean, is this really fulfilling? Getting addicted to saying, oh yes, I'm £10,000 richer than yesterday. Oh no, I'm £5,000 poorer than yesterday. Oh yeah, I mean, is this a fulfilling life? Being a stockbroker, where you're just okay, it would be nice to know that you are earning money and you can go and spend money, but then there's also this insecurity that all your stocks are going to be less valuable tomorrow, and just the idea of getting people to believe that being rich is and earning more money is the only thing that you need to do in life. It's just not real life. The real life should be about getting intelligence. I like watching films and watching um, stuff, because I feel like, well, one, I feel like I'm talking to something. I'm talking to my higher self through stuff, and I feel like she's showing me stuff through the computer morons. There's lots of little robots that she's controlling, and I'm watching the videos and trying to understand what she is saying through these little mindless robots. That's kind of how I'm seeing it. I'm getting a very terrible view of humans. I really am. But I'm trying to listen to what something, so because of that, I feel like I can be, I feel quite fulfilled when listening to stuff and feeling. Thing is, I don't even know what I'm doing it for. It's been so long that I don't even know like why I'm doing this, because I don't even feel like I want to help humans. My view on humans is so bad that I just don't understand why I want to help humans any longer. 12 years ago, I wanted to help humans. And so if I was doing something that was able to help people, then I felt something from that. But now I just look back and just think, why was I feeling good about helping people? Because these people aren't willing to help me. And so my view is just really, really gone down the toilet. And yeah, people are still ignoring me. Are they going to continue ignoring me? Maybe you like how the world is, and maybe I don't know why people are still ignoring me. And maybe they don't want, maybe there's a bunch of people that don't want the collapse to happen. What if you own 500 houses and you know that after the collapse happens your house is going to be worthless because there's going to be so many people leaving in the rapture that wow, go and live on somewhere else. Your house will collapse, but at the same time the world should not be about earning money, just solely earning money. You need to be intelligent. You need to figure out, you know just I think people's goal should be to think about how it would be for them to be a god, or them to have, be able to make a timeline, and to know, there's so many different things that if you want to be a god, if your goal was to one day be a god and somehow fling your soul onto another planet and then try and, like, there's people creating a dire wolf now, and I don't know how my soul changed the DNA, but I feel like me being a god and me making this timeline, I've proved that there is some sort of intelligence that's way, way, way beyond the sort of intelligence that humans have. And right now, if you're goal is just to buy houses and then take rent money and then use that rent money to buy more houses and then more houses and more houses, and all you're thinking about at the end of the day, what are you actually learning from that? All you're learning is how to make money and how to just take money off people. And okay, a lot of these people are probably going to start complaining because they can't afford to pay the rent, and then you have to let them off. But isn't it weird how some people can be let off when other people are probably struggling just as much? They're just making more sacrifices. If someone could only afford to pay the rent if they live off £2,000, e.g. when they go to the cinema they don't buy popcorn, they don't go to restaurants as much. If someone's making tons and tons of sacrifices just to pay off the rent, and other people are just saying, I'll just buy the stuff, I'll just, you can't go to the cinema without paying for a £10 packet of popcorn, you can't do that, that's wrong. I'm at a restaurant, I've eaten a meal, some people always buy drinks because they feel it's wrong to do that, and then they start saying, well, I can't afford the rent this month, and they get let off, and yet they might actually be earning or having a better lifestyle than other people that aren't getting let off. And I don't really know the details on who gets let off and who doesn't, but I know that if you're renting out something and the people renting just say, I'm not paying this month, I can't afford it, well, you're kind of left being like, there's not much you can do, and therefore it's not good just to own houses and your only job being to try to force money out of people, because it's just this whole sort of money money grab. And also when house market goes up and you have to say, well, I can't charge you 900 or 800 any longer, I need to charge you more. I've had a few times we started off 800 including bills, but that was only supposed to be for 3 months, and it was supposed to be during a sort of summer period, hence the bills weren't high. And then when the winter came, it's the bills doubled, and then it was like, right, I really need you to pay more, or to not pay the bills. And that, I don't know how long it took me. It took a long time for them to accept that they had to pay the bills. And then I had to start going up and up, and I kept feeling guilty each time. And it's not a nice life. This is not nice to have to do this. And I think if everyone owned their own house, that would be really, really good. So why isn't it that people are not just owning their own houses? And then I think of all the morons in the world, the morons like my sister that will just let the tap run and not look after the property. If there's mold growing in the wall, they wouldn't think, okay, let's get some anti-mold dryer or whatever to dry it out. There's people that are so stupid that they can't look after their own homes. And so for this reason, it's actually quite good to have people that own homes and rent out their homes, because the people that own homes are people that have been smart enough to be able to buy the home. And if they've been able to buy the home, then they'll probably be able to look after the home better. So I can understand why it's good to have people renting and people owning, because the people that are owning are often the people that can look after houses better than the people that are renting. But yes, I think the quality of humans is so bad that sometimes people rent houses, and if they start not being able to afford the rent, they just start not paying. And then the people that need to pay mortgages or whatever to own the house, they start getting angry, and then they start getting aggressive back and start saying, I'm going to trash this house and I'm going to leave it looking like a mess. I've seen some people that literally just wreck houses because they're angry that they were forced to pay so much, even though the person might only need to be charging much because of whatever reason. And or maybe they're jealous over the fact that they have more houses than they own a couple of houses and this people don't. There's this the standard of human is terrible. And I don't think renting a house shouldn't, you don't really learn that much. If your goal is to become a god, though, looking after a property is very important. But I feel like it's better to learn how to look after. It's better to learn things, and the whole goal, your purpose in life, what your purpose in life is, should be to learn things, to know how to do things. And if everyone owns a home, then everyone can learn how to look after their property. And I think people should be taught the value of having a nice garden, the value of having a nice home, the value of being able to look after your own home. And if everyone owned their own home, except, okay, there would be always some that rent and stuff, but I like the idea of renting, because it means that you just buy a house and then live off the rent, and you don't have to actually do much work. But if there was another option, becoming a doctor one day a week, I don't know if I'd get a doctor degree because of the dyslexia and memory disorder that I have, but I'm sure that there are lots of jobs that I would have loved to do, and I couldn't do it because there weren't jobs available. And I think if people were less money orientated, then they would probably think, I only want to work 1 or 2 days a week, and then this would open up more opportunities for other people. And if houses weren't so expensive, people wouldn't start inventing jobs that don't need to be done, but them inventing it just so that they can try and get money. And when money is the sort of the thing that people value more than anything else, this is when a society becomes very corrupt, and it's all about not doing the right thing, or maybe the people at work don't actually work and they're just on the computer playing games, and they only start working when there's a boss walking past or something. I don't really understand many jobs, because I've never been in a workplace, so I don't know. There's Talent Expo that I did once, and I think I only got paid for 3 months, and it was only about £1,000, and of course I got about £200 of each month taken off, so I only earned about £800. But yeah, that was long hours, and of course that I had to pay for travel on top of that, and the travel was about £7 a day. So if you're only earning £800 if you're earning £800 and like half of it goes on travel, then you're just thinking, well, how on earth am I? How are you supposed to? There's if you have to pay huge amounts to get to work, which is London travel costs is huge. It's just tax, rent, mortgage, or rent or mortgage, and then travel cost as well, and then food to eat, and then you find there's absolutely nothing left, and then you're living off nothing, and then you feel like, what happens if I didn't even have this job? Then I'd literally have nothing, and I wouldn't be able to go anywhere. I wouldn't be able to do anything, and I don't know. Just there's so many problems in this world that I think depopulation is the only real way to solve it. To start again, and yeah, if that happens, is but yeah, and if people valued knowledge and intelligence and saw that as being more important than money, finding happiness within who you are, and finding happiness within things that you learn, things that you can do, and yeah, are you really learning much by being good at the stock markets? Are you really learning much just by living off, having a couple of houses that you're renting out, and then just finding ways to sort of make sure you get that money and then that they don't start missing? Is that really fulfilling? Are you learning much? I mean, you do learn much looking after a property, when things break. But I would have much rather the schools teach me how to bleed. I would have far rather the schools teach me how to bleed a radiator or how to fix a tap. When you're young, you're keen and you want to learn stuff, and the things that I'm learning or things that I need to learn now are not things that they taught me at school, and I feel like it's almost too late. I feel like this is the stuff you should have been teaching people when they were. My mental state is not in a good position now, so anything I learn, I just wish I was dead. That's kind of, my mental state is not very good right now. So